They're very important, whether the topic be suicide or cancer. The awareness for how first responders have been affected uh, is long overdue. Um, for example, the best example would be our military. As a society, our troops are completely and wholeheartedly supported, whether it be the general support systems or treatments for PTSD. However, it's not the same for first responders. Uh, when it comes to suicide, since 2014, the reported suicides for firefighters is greater than the line of duty deaths, and that's really important. When it comes to cancers, as a firefighter, we are 14% more likely of dying from cancer. And more specifically, firefighters are at higher risk for specific types of cancer. Perfect example would be mesothelioma, where firefighters are 129% at a higher risk of dying from that cancer, from that specific cancer. Esophageal cancer, firefighters at a 39% higher risk of dying from esophageal cancer. Testicular cancer, just like mesothelioma, a 100% chance or risk of dying from that particular cancer. So it's very important, and so that's why I'm pro. Actually, it's hit home for us. In August of 2019, Lieutenant Sam Scott unfortunately took his own life. And locally, the neighboring department, Sugar Land Fire Department, he was an assistant chief. His name was Clay Fenwick. He actually fought. I mean, talk about, he fought the good fight. He fought workers' comp to the very end, to where finally workers' comp approved his claim, which set a tremendous precedent for every firefighter in Fort Bend County. I'm not sure if you're aware, but Fort Bend County is one of the fastest growing counties in the nation. And so for Chief Fenwick to have fought that battle behind closed doors, the firefighters will never truly understand how great, that was for us, for all of us, for the men and women that work for the fire departments here in Fort Bend County. As a first responder, whether as a family files or seeks the presumptive coverages, as we can all imagine, the stresses of both, the financial and emotional impact that it's going to have, not only on the family, but also as a president of my local firefighter association, the impact there as well is tremendous. First responders should not have to worry or concern themselves on whether or not a claim is going to be approved, or worse yet, have a claim approved and then be challenged by the city in the higher court systems. A perfect example of that for the state of Texas, where I'm located, from 2012 to 2019, 91% of all claims were denied. And that's just unacceptable. As I stated before, when speaking of the military, as a society, it's completely accepted the support systems and the treatments for PTSD. However, not on the first responder. That same courtesy has not been extended to the first responders. As we all know, communication is very important, but I believe effective and honest communication is what's really necessary. Again, as the president of my local firefighter association, it's important for that association, that local, if they have not already, it's very important that they create and build every relationship that they can, whether it begins at the fire chief level, through their local government, all the way up to their local state representatives. Even more importantly, it cannot be forgotten, but public opinion. Public opinion truly can be the major driving force to affecting change, because essentially, whether it be at the state level or even local level, public opinion, the voters, if you will, truly control who holds those offices. And I think it's important through the effective and honest communication that's how things get addressed.
The reason I would be con on that issue is, we're always told to follow the science. When we talk about climate change, we should follow the science. When we talk about COVID response, we should follow the science. We probably are always told to follow the science. And the problem is the legislation that has been passed so far, largely across the country, has very little to do with science, and it has everything to do with politics. Everyone is afraid to confront the first responder and really make legitimate legislation that covers that presumptions that would be correct. What we've ended up doing is creating a two-tier injury system where you may not get benefits based on the facts, but rather on the how spelling of your job title. And I'll give you a quick example. Florida in the last year or two has passed presumptions for PTSDs for first responders. If the Parkland shooting, which happened in Fort Lauderdale several years ago, as Parkland school shooting happened today, administrators, janitors, teachers, other employees of the school district who were inside the building, hiding behind desks, dodging bullets and watching their students and coworkers get shot, if they're not injured, they have no benefits under the state of Florida. They would get no benefits. Meanwhile, the deputy, the sheriff's deputy, who famously stood outside that building, never went in and did nothing, would qualify for PTSD because he was at the scene of a mass casualty event. Now, if anybody thinks that fair, I would say raise your hand and explain it why. It's an interesting question because there's actually been very little impact from antagonism. In fact, the fact is we don't have enough antagonism. The legislators are afraid to antagonize the unions. They don't want to offend the police unions. They don't want to offend the firefighting unions. And I get it. I mean, everyone loves first responders. You want to take care of first responders. We all heard the tale that they run into danger while everyone else is running away. If my house catches on fire, first responders are going to be the first people I call. I guarantee it. But the reality is, we are not basing this in a reasonable form and really making sound scientifically based decisions. And it's because they are afraid to antagonize the people who are demanding these benefits. The real solution here is that we should be fair and the legislation should be sound. We are, as I said, creating a system with two tiers of injured workers. Now, we can either make the legislation that represents presumptions that are reasonable and accurate for the position, or what will likely start happening is we will have to start expanding those to people beyond first responders. And we've already seen a touch of that during the COVID pandemic, where there was talk about expanding these presumptions to frontline workers instead of just first responders. Again, I understand the emotion behind it, but there's not a lot of logic really applied to it because in doing so, we risk making employers liable for a whole host of problems of which they have absolutely no control and which they really fundamentally are not responsible. So the result or the solution is to be fair and equitable in the legislation that we pass.